Congressman, just savage mode. Savage mode. We saw you doing it. You were dropping bombs. We know you're we know you're a veteran, so we know you know how to drop bombs. But outside of the courthouse, man, you were just throwing haymakers. Good for you.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, we have to get the president's side of the story and also what's truly happening in the courthouse when they're giving him a gag order and refusing to allow him to defend himself.
That's right. They can't gag members of Congress. I mean, what are they going to do? You're a Florida congressman. Like, they're not going to be able to do anything. So you can go, and you stood out front. Now, we covered your commentary live yesterday. We're not going to make you watch a video of yourself. We always think that's a little weird. But it was awesome. We played it live. The audience loved it. Can you tell us about the courthouse? What happened inside? Give us like a TikTok of the day.
Well, look, I mean, at the end of the day, what you get to see on the inside of the courthouse that's unique, that you don't get whenever Fox News or MSNBC or CNN or whomever just decides to pan away because they don't want to see certain things that are inconvenient for them, is that you get to see the reaction by the jury. You get to actually see how quickly this kind of very corrupted judge, Judge Merkin, who will actually just before the prosecutor even gets objection out of her mouth, immediately sustained. I mean, you have no thought process whatsoever into it. And then you find out all the digging background and the fact that they actually don't have a prosecutorial case or charge. You know, if the idea is that he had illegal or intentionally misleading entries in his general ledger as part of his business, they can't find a way to prove that whenever you have Michael Cohen, their quote unquote star witness, who, by the way, you know, lied under oath, has perjured himself before Congress, who had IRS tax evasion, and who, in my opinion, during this case yesterday, he actually had self-admission to fraud against the Trump organization when he said that I knowingly was submitting invoices for, you know, these legal retainers, which, by the way, the president's team entered it under the legal part of the actual general ledger as any other business would, and that this was supposedly hush money. Now, here's my problem with this. If you were to say, hey, Corey, I paid this amount for you, this $500, what do you think that I would return as a result of that? $500. And in this case, he's saying that he spent $130,000 on hush money, but yet he was paid over $400,000 over a course of a year, which sounds like a normal legal retainer, one that I've had in multiple business, where if you have a lawyer who has a specialty, you put them on a retainer so that they can be available to you if needed, but also because legal retainers are an insurance policy. It means that people are less likely to come and try and launch some frivolous lawsuit when they know that you have lawyers on retainer who are willing to defend it. So, you know, you got a guy who is completely uncredible, who is not an ounce of integrity whatsoever. You got a judge whose daughter is raising hundreds of millions of dollars for the reelection of Biden, Harris, Adam Schiff in the Senate, and others. And then you wonder to yourself, well, wait a second, who benefits from actually dragging this out? Well, the two individuals who are making money off President Trump while involving themselves in election interference by keeping him off the campaign trail, by tying him up every single day, by pushing a gag order so he can't defend himself. And so this is very clearly, it's not a judge, it's not a jury, it's not a prosecutor. These are political operatives working on behalf of a weaponized New York court that is doing this on behalf of a weaponized AG Bragg for the sake of helping Joe Biden and helping Kamala Harris to get reelected.
So that's become quite clear. And we believe that Joe Biden, in a panic, has decided to accept these debate terms. Or I guess maybe vice versa. I guess everybody giving in a little bit. Joe Biden didn't want to debate. Do you think that?
I absolutely think that, but then he looked at things like the Gallup poll where, and 41% of the people are most concerned with economy and inflation, and that's the area that President Trump thrives in. And you look how fast that's exacerbated. When you look at 2022, that was at 32%. And prior to that, we all remember the 2008 collapse where the bubble burst. It was only at 18% back then. So he's seeing where he's losing this, but that's also why he's starting to do other unconstitutional violations like the quid pro quo, which I now call quid pro Joe, where he's actually trying to withhold funding from Israel so he can buy votes from the 13.2% who are uncommitted as a result of Rashida Tlaib's message in Michigan. So he's trying to buy those votes, which is 101,457 votes, and by the radical left who are pro-Hamas sympathizers who are on these universities across the country. And not to mention the fact that he's violated the Take Care Clause, which, you know, refusing to enforce federally mandated laws for the border. He's violated the SCOTUS ruling, which is a separation of power abuse, where he's actually still trying to buy people with tuition bailout money. So he has no choice. I don't think he wants to debate. I think that the kitchen's getting so hot that he has to actually take it to the frying pan. He has to get out there and do something about it. So he makes this rhetoric, oh, I'll debate you right now, pal. Yeah, on my terms, with my moderator, at my location, with no audience, with a mute button. You know, I mean, I don't know what else he's going to continue to throw in there. Maybe he gets an upper of Adderall to keep him going for the remaining 30 minutes of the show. They give him a bowl of ice cream. I don't know what's going to go on, Benny, but at the end of the day, he definitely didn't want to do this. I mean, this is absolutely him trying to pander to get away from all the things that are actually coming at him right now.
Yeah, bowl of ice cream, sprinkle a little crack on there, a bowl of cocaine bag in the White House. Yeah.
No, absolutely not. He likes children's hair flavored ice cream. That's what he goes for. You know, real sprinkles. You know, it's like real bits of Panther. You know, he's like that guy who actually wants to get in there.
Burns the nostrils. Kid, is that Pantene Pro V? Come on, up your game. Speaking of upping your game, this is the photo that went thermonuclear viral from yesterday. I wanted to chat with you about it. This photo of you with Donald Trump sort of in the foreground, and you're standing there with Byron Donalds, obviously the Speaker of the House, sort of like unified front, right? Like this is the spectrum, as it were, of the Republican Party. And so, you know, not like wanting to say what we said yesterday, which is it's good. It's good. Unite and win as America First conservatives. Right. Don't lose as America First conservatives. We want to win, and this is good. But what was standing there in this courtroom like? Talk to us about like being part of these photo ops. This is becoming quite iconic.
Well, Benny, let me just go ahead and tell you, they're trying everything they can to paint the perception that President Trump is standing alone. And when they saw us come to this gate and this photo went launch, in the afternoon session, whenever we were getting ready to close out, they put police officers, and I know the police officers are doing their job. God bless our law enforcement officers, but they put them in front of the exact area that we're standing in front of in this picture to where it blocks us out. And again, makes it look like from what the media sees in the photos that we're somehow not there any longer and that he's back to being isolated and he's on his own. They're trying to paint these false narratives to try and go ahead and create the perception that he's on his own. Well, let me tell you, I think that we made it very clear that we stand with the president. America stands with the president. I'll tell you what's even worse, Benny. They won't even let Americans come within 6 blocks of the courthouse. They don't want the protesters to come out there and cheer on their president because they know that this kangaroo court is basically just going ahead and trying to lean in one direction. So they're doing absolutely everything they can to play into the election perception game, and that's part of it. But I'll tell you, that courthouse, you know, the president calls it the ice box. One, it's freezing cold, which they do that intentionally, and then they put him into these very kind of, you know, run down and dank back rooms for his private area that he can actually be in for his breaks. And, you know, it really isn't a position that you would want anybody in, but especially to set the precedent that you're actually doing this to the president of the United States. I mean, it's absolutely just something that you can't imagine. But I do think that America's coming around. They do see this for the sham, you know, indictment, same way we had the sham impeachment when he was in office. And I think that it's actually rallying the base around him.
Yeah. Young voters, non-white voters, everybody's breaking for Trump. And this is partly why. I think this is absolutely why they have so many people surrounding Joe Biden now suddenly hyping these debates. These debates were never supposed to happen. This is not a position of strength. This is a position of weakness. This is a position of desperation and a position.
Well, but Benny, here's my question though. In the debate, what if they ask a question that has to do with his actual case, and now he's got a gag order and he can't defend it? Then it actually creates a perception that he somehow doesn't have the ability to defend himself. And then what is it? It's guilty by the inability to defend. And so I think that that's also one of the things they're looking at, the fact that how they use this gag order. I watched yesterday after he did his actual press conference where they have plants in there who ask him things like, how do you feel about Judge so-and-so? How do you feel about Michael Cohen? Are you angry about this? Are you? And they're plants to try and see if he can violate his gag order. I think that Joe Biden, and I don't put it past the Democrats to try and do the same thing to lead him into a trap.
So you're saying these debates may be a trap. You're saying that they even rigged the photograph of you behind Trump. That's remarkable. We hadn't heard that.
Well, they didn't rig a photograph of us. They actually, on the second time that he went up to the action at the end of the day to close out, they put the police officers up and against that gate to where it made it look like we were further back where we couldn't be in the shot.
So you couldn't stand like this. You're right. because this
You
was the
couldn't
iconic
where we're standing, they put police officers kind of in a wall there. So we had to stand further in the back to where they could actually kind of tight shot this to where it looks like he's all on his own.
So that's, I mean, again, that's what we would call, I mean, I would call that rigging a photograph, because this is a powerful look. You have governors there,
started getting
Speaker
so
of the
much
House.
attraction, though, Benny, from people like yourself who is actually pushing this out, from other members who are out there pushing this out. It became such a big deal that they had to find a way to basically go ahead and get some of this weakness in there that he's all alone. And they literally, at the place that we were standing, we could no longer stand there by the end of the afternoon. They had put law enforcement there to prevent us from being able to do there.
Remarkable. Did you get any chance to be one-on-one with Trump yesterday?
I did. I mean, I had some time with him at the towers, and we talked. Obviously, I was in the motorcade with him. He's in great spirits. I mean, he literally was kind of laughing at the fact that if these are the two-star witnesses, which is, Clifford, who has lied multiple times, a sworn affidavit, nothing happened, then it didn't happen, then it did happen, then it didn't. And then you got Michael Cohen, who doesn't have an ounce of integrity or credibility. And now you've got the prosecution looking at what is the judge's background and how is he was saying. I literally saw, Benny, and this is something that you don't get the opportunity to see, but when he was trying to purposely evade questions, saying, oh, well, yeah, that sounds like something I would say, or, oh, I really can't recall. When meanwhile, when the prosecution was there, it was like, oh, absolutely. On this date, I said this in this email. You saw him trying to evade. I watched a couple of jurors, and I'm hoping that this is a very, very positive sign, who kind of looked and said, like almost like, why is he evading this? Why is this such a difficult question? I mean, he is the ultimate boy who cried wolf. But I mean, at the same time, these were simple questions. He couldn't remember things that happened in 2021, but he could remember the exact description of things that happened in 2016. Sorry, in police work, they call that a clue.
Yeah. I think that they are getting a clue. I think they're going to lose. I think they know they're going to. I mean, they wouldn't do this. This is an act of desperation. And it's a very exciting update on the state of play, because we did a poll just earlier in the week, and it's like 90% of our audience said there's no way they're going to let these debates happen. And so we say that's a victory, and we'll take small victories.
I think so as well.
Yeah, we'll take the small victories. So it's good to hear that Donald Trump has a good esprit de corps about him. Final question here, Congressman. The path, you spent all day with the president yesterday. The path through to the end of the election. Did you talk about any strategy, any updates?
Well, we did. We talked a lot about the swing states. I had the ability to talk to Whatley, the RNC chair, yesterday. And so we talked about the idea of the 19 counties, 7 states that we're concerned with regards to election integrity. We talked about how we're going to actually get the necessary legal teams in place, or if we do have to do an injunction, if we do have to do certain things to be able to ensure that no new ballots are coming in, that's something that we're approaching. Obviously, we're trying to take steps here in Congress, passing things like the qualification of needing to say if you're a citizen to qualify for your census surveys, which would prevent them from drawing the lines. But look, the top issue right now is economy, inflation, the border. Those two things Donald Trump wins handsomely in. He is crossing the spectrums of not just the age barriers, not just the demographics of gender or race or any of the others. He's literally uniting America because they see the weaponized two-tiered system of lawfare, and they're terrified because Trump said it best. He said, they're not after me, they're after you, and I'm just in the way. They're now really coming to fruition and say, hey, that's actually happening. That's taking place right now. We're seeing what's happening. But also, it's the old Reagan question. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Reach in your pocket. Can you fill your gas tank, fill your grocery cart, and still have a little left? If you can't, ask yourself whether you could 4 years ago, because that's the true question. Are you safer now? Are there more angel families? Is our borders actually being overrun right now? Are we getting ready to launch ourselves into a hot war, World War III, because he doesn't understand that we can actually get ourselves out of the interventionist mindset? I mean, people are looking at this and they're saying, you know what, right or wrong, I'm going to support President Trump because I know what my life was like and I knew what the country was like back then.
Really, really quickly, Congressman, that just tickled the ears. So you're going to potentially do legal injunctions to stop the drops of ballots that happened with those miraculous little lines in the middle of the night. That's the first time I've heard that. That's awesome.
So here's this is something I had recommended. So I watched this when Governor Rick Scott ran for the Senate. One of the areas that was starting to immediately see all this increase in ballots was right there in the Miami-Dade area, back when you had the election person who was Brenda Snipes.
Yes.
They actually filed an injunction which allowed them to cordon the area off, which, by the way, they'd end up finding a car which had a ton of ballots sitting in the trunk of it. And so that could have actually changed it. When you think about the fact that Governor DeSantis only won by, I think it was 0.5%, that's a very significant thing when you think about a ballot, trunk full of votes for the other person. We would have had Andrew Gillum as an example, and you wouldn't have had Governor Rick Scott as the senator. So, I used that as an example, and I said, hey, look, this is what worked in Miami-Dade. Have we thought about utilizing a very similar measure in the 19 counties and 7 states so that we could try and prevent that, in addition to what we can do here in Congress to try and improve the capabilities of more election integrity, because that is such an important issue for all of us.
Yeah. Wow. That's remarkable. It's amazing to actually see somebody to put rubber to the road, so to speak, and like do something about it. Wow, we can actually do something about this. I remember that,
Benny,
Brendan.
Afghanistan, Israel, Haiti, you know I'll actually go do stuff.
Yes, that's exactly right. The member of Congress who doesn't wait for Joe Biden or the military, just gets on the plane and does it himself is remarkable. You must support Corey Mills. Please, Congressman, come back. Everybody follow him on X. 130,000 Americans rocking and rolling, sir. And we really appreciate the Anchorman reference, the Sex Panther Anchorman reference.
Hey, 60% of the time, it works every time.
Yeah, we hope you wore that to court. I'm sure Stormy Daniels was like, I've smelled that before. Who's got the Sex Panther?
Where's Ron?
Where's Ron? Oh man, fantastic! A man with a much better mustache than Ron Burgundy. The beard, Corey Mills, keeping it sharp. Godspeed, Congressman.
Thank you, Benny. God bless.